Hello everyone, my name is Ankit Lavade. Today is 26th of July 2022 and the topic for the today's video is Angular Lifecycle Hooks. So this is my first or original video in this topic. So first we will see what is Angular Component Lifecycle Hooks. When the Angular application starts, it creates and renders the root component. It then creates and renders its children and their children. It forms a tree of components. Once Angular loads the component, it starts the process of rendering the view. To do that, it needs to check the input properties, evaluate the data bindings and expressions, renders the projected content, etc. Angular also removes the component from the DOM when it is no longer needs it. So Angular let us know when this event happens using lifecycle hooks. So the Angular lifecycle hooks are nothing but callback function which Angular invokes when a certain event occurs during the component lifecycle. So the Angular lifecycle hooks is the complete list of the cycle which Angular invokes during the component lifecycle. Angular invokes them when a certain events occur. The first is ng on changes, ng on init, ng do check, then ng after content init, then ng after content check, ng after view init, and ng after view check, then ng destroy. So we will see it one by one. So the first is constructor. The life cycle of a component begins when Angular creates the component class. First method that gets invoked is a class constructor. So the constructor is neither a lifecycle hook nor it is a specific Angular. It is a JavaScript feature. It is a method which is invoked when a class is created. So the Angular makes use of a constructor to inject dependencies. At this point, none of the component input properties are available to use. Neither its child component are constructed, projected contents are also not available. So hence, there is not much we can do in this method, and also it is recommended not to use it. So once Angular instantiates the class, it start the first change detection cycle of the component. So the first is ng on changes. So the Angular invokes ng on changes lifecycle hook whenever any data bound input property of the component or directive changes. So initializing the input properties is the first task that Angular carries during the change detection cycle. So after if it detects any change in the property, then it rejects the ng on changes hook, and it does so during every change detection cycle. Then the next is ng on it. The Angular raises the ng on it hook after it creates the component and updates its input properties. It raises it after the ng on changes hook. So this hook is fired only once and immediately after its creation. Then the ng do check. The Angular invokes the ng do check hook event during the every change detection cycle. So this hook is invoked even if there is no change in any of the properties. Then ng after content init. So the ng after content lifecycle hook is called after the component projected content has been fully initialized. The Angular also updates the property decorated with the content child and content children before raising this hook. So this hook is also raised even if there is no content to project. So the content here refers to the external content injected from the parent component via content projection. Then the next is ng after content check. So the ng after content check lifecycle hook is called during every change detection cycle after Angular finishes checking of the component's projected content. The Angular also updates the properties decorated with the content child and content children before raising this hook. So Angular calls this hook even if there is no projected content in the component. Then the next is ng after view init. The ng after view init hook is called after the component's view and all its children views are fully initialized. Then Angular also updates the properties decorated with the view child and view children properties before raising this hook. This view here refers to the template of the current component and its child component and its directive. Then the next is NG after view check. So the NG, the Angular fires the hooks after it checks and updates the component view and child view. So this event is fired after the NG after view init, and after that during every change direction cycle. So the last is NG on destroy. So this hook is called just before the component directive instance is destroyed by Angular, and we can perform any cleanup logic for the component here, and this is the correct place where we would like to unsubscribe observables and detach event handlers to avoid memory leak. So this is all about the Angular lifecycle hooks. Thank you.